Commander Vrix'tal had seen many things during his 3 decades of military service to the Crithian Empire, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for what was happening in Bay 7. The creature they had designed was supposed to be death incarnate. 4 meters of pure destruction. Claws that could slice through battle armor like wet paper. Teeth that could crush starship hull plating. A nervous system engineered for reaction times that made quantum computers look sluggish. They had poured 17 years and the GDP of 6 colony worlds into Project Apex, creating what every military strategist in the galaxy agreed would be the ultimate biological weapon, and right now, right this very second, it was making a sound that Vrix'tal's translator could only render as purring. Explain this, Vrix'tal said, his 3-fingered hand gesturing at the massive viewport. His voice came out strangled, somewhere between horror and complete bewilderment. Explain this immediately, or I swear by the 17 moons, someone is getting ejected into hard vacuum. Dr. Kelvin Reeves, the human engineer who had been hired despite Vrix'tal's very vocal objections, sat cross-legged on the floor of the containment chamber. The killing machine, the apex predator, the thing that had torn through every simulation with terrifying efficiency, was currently sprawled across the human's lap. All 4 meters of it. Its massive head rested on Reeves' thigh, and one of its dinner-plate-sized paws was draped over his knee. The human was scratching behind the creature's auditory sensors. Well, Reeves said, not even looking up, I'd say Apex here just needed some proper socialization. Didn't you, boy? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. The creature's tail, which according to specifications, could generate enough force to decapitate 3 armored soldiers in a single sweep, wagged. It actually wagged. Vrix'tal felt something inside his brain break. Just a little. A tiny snap, like a cable under too much tension. That, he began, his mandibles clicking in agitation, is not a pet. That is a weapons system. A very expensive weapons system. That cost more than your entire planet's annual military budget. Correction, Reeves said, finally looking up with those disturbingly bright human eyes. That was supposed to be a weapons system. Now he's a good boy. Aren't you, Apex? Yes, you are. The creature rolled onto its back, exposing its armored underbelly, which according to every tactical analysis was impossible. The underbelly was a vulnerability, a weak point that no predator would ever willingly expose. Its 6 legs waved in the air like a hatchling begging for food. Vrix'tal turned to his head scientist, Dr. Thorner, who had been conspicuously silent during this entire nightmare. You assured me that the aggression protocols were foolproof. You assured me that this creature would bond only with combat directives and territorial imperatives. Thorner's skin had gone an unfortunate shade of grey-green that indicated severe distress. Commander, we followed every specification. Every genetic marker for aggression was amplified. We removed all social bonding genes from the baseline predator genome. We installed neural implants that should have made it impossible for the creature to feel anything except rage and hunger. Should have, Vrix'tal repeated flatly. The human did something, Thorner said, her voice cracking. We don't know what. We don't understand how. Through the viewport, Reeves had produced something from his pocket. A small object that he tossed across the containment chamber. The apex predator, the crown jewel of Crithian bioengineering, scrambled to its feet with all the grace of a newborn instead of a killing machine and bounded after the object like, is it playing fetch? Vrix'tal whispered, horrified. It appears so, Commander, his tactical officer confirmed from the control station, sounding like he wanted to cry. Apex retrieved the object and brought it back to Reeves, dropping it at his feet and sitting down with an expectant expression that should have been physically impossible for something with that many teeth. Good boy. Reeves praised, picking up the object and throwing it again. Vrix'tal's communication device chirped. He answered it with shaking hands. Commander, Admiral Zoether's voice crackled through. I'm 3 hours out from the station. I'm bringing the Galactic Council representatives and 47 journalists from the major networks. They're all very excited to see the demonstration of our new Apex Predator program. Please tell me everything is on schedule. Vrix'tal looked at the viewport. At the human. At the creature that was now rolling over again, demanding more belly rubs. Everything is. He started. Everything is proceeding exactly as expected, Admiral. The lie tasted like acid. Excellent, the Admiral said. We've already started negotiations with 6 different systems who want to purchase their own units once they see the capabilities. This is going to revolutionize warfare, Vrix'tal. Revolutionize it. I'll see you in 3 hours. The connection cut. Silence filled the command center. The kind of silence that came before executions or court-martials or both. 3 hours, Vrix'tal said. We have 3 hours to fix this. Commander, Thorner said hesitantly, I'm not sure we can fix this. We don't even understand what went wrong. The human has somehow overridden 17 years of genetic programming in less than 2 weeks. Then we get answers from the human. Vrix'tal straightened his uniform and headed for the containment chamber door. Sir, wait, his tactical officer called out. Shouldn't we prepare? Bring weapons. The creature might still be dangerous if provoked. Vrix'tal paused, considered, then looked back at the viewport where Apex was now lying on his side while Reeves rubbed his belly and cooed nonsense words at him. Somehow, Vrix'tal said with the resignation of someone watching their career implode in real time, I don't think that's going to be necessary. The containment chamber door hissed open. The sound should have triggered Apex's threat response, should have sent him into immediate attack mode. Instead, the creature's head perked up, and his tail wagged faster. Reeves looked up as Vrix'tal entered, his expression maddeningly calm. Commander. Perfect timing. I was just about to write up my report. Your report, Vrix'tal said slowly, on how you destroyed a 17-year military project in 14 days. Destroyed. Reeves laughed, actually laughed. Commander, I didn't destroy anything. I fixed it. Fixed. Fixed. Vrix'tal's voice cracked. That creature is supposed to be a weapon. It's supposed to strike fear into the hearts of our enemies. It's supposed to be unstoppable, unkillable, the ultimate expression of military might. Reeves stood up, gently moving Apex's head off his lap. The creature whined, a sound that definitely wasn't in the specification documents. Yeah, about that, Reeves said, dusting off his pants. I read through your design documents. All 14,000 pages. And I found a pretty significant problem. The only problem, Vrix'tal said through clenched mandibles, is that our ultimate weapon wants belly rubs. No, Commander. Reeves walked over to a display panel and pulled up a genetic sequence. The problem is that you tried to create a perfect killer by removing everything that makes a social predator functional. You stripped out bonding. You stripped out pack dynamics. You stripped out every instinct that would make this creature work as part of a team. It doesn't need a team. It's supposed to be deployed alone. Exactly, Reeves said. You wanted to create a solo apex predator with the intelligence to follow complex commands, but none of the social structure that makes intelligence useful. Do you know what happens when you do that? Vrix'tal waited. You get a very confused, very stressed, very unstable creature that can't function properly, because you've basically given it the emotional equivalent of solitary confinement before it's even born. The human pulled up another screen, this one showing stress hormone levels. Look at these readings from the first week. Apex was constantly in fight or flight mode. His cortisol levels were through the roof. He wasn't sleeping. Wasn't eating properly. He was literally tearing himself apart from the inside, because you tried to make him something that evolution never intended. Vrix'tal stared at the data. He'd never bothered to check the stress markers. Why would he? Stress was good for combat effectiveness. Everyone knew that. So what did you do? He asked quietly. Reeves smiled. I gave him what he needed. Structure. Affection. Clear communication. Basically, I treated him like the highly intelligent social creature he actually is instead of a mindless killing machine. He paused. Also, I taught him to play fetch. Because, honestly, look at him. He loves it. As if on cue, Apex picked up his toy and brought it to Vrix'tal, dropping it at his feet and sitting down with an expression of hopeful expectation. Throw it, Reeves encouraged. Trust me. Vrix'tal looked at the toy. Looked at the creature. Looked at the human. 3 hours, until the Admiral arrived. 3 hours, until his career ended. He picked up the toy and threw it. Apex bounded after the toy with enough enthusiasm to rattle the reinforced walls, and Vrix'tal had to admit, just to himself, in the deepest part of his mind where no one would ever find it, that watching the creature run was actually kind of magnificent. See? Reeves said, grinning like he'd just solved all the galaxy's problems, instead of creating the biggest military embarrassment in Crithian history. He's happy. A happy predator is an effective predator. A happy predator, Vrix'tal repeated, tasting each word like poison, is not what the Galactic Council is expecting to see in 3 hours. They want terrifying. They want unstoppable. They want something that makes enemy combatants reconsider their life choices. Apex returned with the toy, but this time he brought it to Vrix'tal. The creature sat down, tail swishing across the floor, and made a small chirping sound that the translator unhelpfully rendered as hopeful anticipation. Don't look at me like that, Vrix'tal told the creature. You're supposed to be intimidating. Apex's head tilted to one side. His ears, those ridiculous mobile sensor arrays that were supposed to detect enemy heartbeats from 50 meters, perked up in what could only be described as curiosity. Oh, for the love of... Vrix'tal threw the toy again. Apex exploded into motion, all muscle and speed and power, and okay, yes, that part was still impressive. Reeves pulled up a chair and sat down like he was settling in for a nice chat instead of attending his own court-martial. Commander, can I ask you something? What's the actual mission profile for Apex? That's classified, Vrix'tal said automatically. I have level 9 clearance. I designed his entire nervous system. Try again. Vrix'tal's mandibles clicked in irritation, but the human had a point. Fine. The primary deployment scenario is special operations. Deep insertion into hostile territory. Elimination of high-value targets. Extraction before enemy forces can coordinate a response. So he needs to be smart enough to navigate complex environments, identify specific targets, and get out without getting himself killed. Obviously. Then you definitely need him to be able to bond with handlers, Reeves said, standing up and walking over to a tactical display. Look, I know you military types love your lone wolf fantasies, but let me tell you something about Earth predators. The most successful ones. The ones that dominated their ecosystems. They hunted in coordinated packs. Apex isn't from Earth. No, but I used Earth predator DNA as a baseline for his social instincts. Specifically, canines. You know why. Vrix'tal waited, because apparently today was the day he learned things from a human who was technically young enough to be his grandchild. Because canines have 40,000 years of evolutionary history working alongside humans. They can read our body language. They can understand our emotional states. They want to work with us, because cooperation is literally coded into their genes. Reeves pulled up a schematic. I didn't remove your aggression protocols, Commander. I just gave Apex a framework to channel them properly. The display showed neural pathways lighting up in sequence. Right now, Apex is bonded to me as his primary handler. He trusts me. He wants to make me happy. And you know what that means? That we've created an expensive lapdog. Vrix'tal suggested acidly. That means if I tell him to do something, he'll do it with every ounce of capability you engineered into him. Watch. Reeves turned to Apex, who had been lying down chewing on his toy. Apex. Alert stance. The transformation was instantaneous. The playful creature vanished, replaced by something that made Vrix'tal's survival instinct scream. Apex's entire body shifted, muscles tensing, claws extending. His eyes changed, pupils dilating to predatory slits. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 5 degrees. Target acquisition mode, Reeves said calmly. Scan for threats. Apex's head swiveled, and Vrix'tal suddenly understood why every prey species in the galaxy had nightmares about being hunted. The creature's gaze passed over him, and in that instant, he knew with absolute certainty that Apex had catalogued every vulnerable point on his body, calculated 3 different kill vectors, and assessed the exact amount of force needed to end him. It took perhaps 2 seconds. It felt like an eternity. Stand down, Reeves said. Good boy. Apex immediately relaxed, his tail starting to wag again, and trotted over to Reeves for an ear scratch. The killing machine was gone. The happy creature was back. Vrix'tal realized he'd been holding his breath. Holy void, he whispered. He can switch between modes. Instantly, Reeves confirmed. And more importantly, he can do it reliably. No berserker rage. No friendly fire incidents. No uncontrolled aggression that gets your own troops killed. The human's expression turned serious. Commander, I've read the reports from your previous bioweapon programs. The Ravagers. The Void Stalkers. The Crimson Swarm. You know what they all had in common. High casualty rates among enemy forces. High casualty rates among your own people, Reeves corrected. Because you kept building things that couldn't tell friend from foe. Things that were so aggressive they'd attack anything that moved. Things that had to be destroyed after every mission, because they were too dangerous to keep alive. Vrix'tal said nothing. The human was right, and they both knew it. Apex won't have that problem, Reeves continued. Because he's not a mindless weapon. He's a partner. He'll protect his handlers. He'll follow orders. He'll complete the mission and come home. He paused. Isn't that what you actually need? Before Vrix'tal could answer, his communication device chirped again. He checked the display and felt his 2 hearts sink into his lower digestive tract. The Admiral is early, he said. His docking in 15 minutes. Well then, Reeves said, cracking his knuckles, I guess we'd better put on a show. You got a demonstration scenario prepared? Of course. Standard combat assessment. Armed targets. Hostile environment simulation. Extraction under fire. Vrix'tal pulled up the program. It's designed to showcase maximum lethality. Perfect. Load it up. You're serious? You want to run the demonstration? Commander, you've got 2 choices. You can try to explain to the Admiral and the Galactic Council why your ultimate weapon likes belly rubs. Or you can show them what Apex can actually do when properly motivated. Reeves headed for the door. Your call, but I know which one I'd pick. 10 minutes later, Vrix'tal stood in the observation gallery with his entire command staff, watching Reeves gear up in handler equipment. The Admiral and his entourage would arrive any moment. The journalists were already setting up their recording equipment. Everything was about to either save his career, or end it spectacularly. All systems ready, Thorna reported from her station. Combat scenario loaded. Difficulty set to maximum. The demonstration arena below was a nightmare of obstacles, automated weapon systems, and holographic enemy combatants that would respond to Apex's movements with lethal force. Well, lethal if this were a real battlefield. Here, they'd just register hits and failures. The previous test subjects, the prototypes before Apex, had never made it past the first 30 seconds. Reeves entered the arena with Apex walking calmly beside him. No restraints. No control collar. Just a human and a bioengineered predator that could kill him in 17 different ways before his body hit the ground. The door sealed behind them. Recording active, someone announced. All networks are live streaming. Galactic Council observers are online. Vrix'tal's career flashed before his eyes. Scenario begin, the computer announced. The arena erupted. Automated turrets swiveled to track Apex. Holographic soldiers appeared from cover positions. The air filled with simulated weapons fire. Apex, Reeves said, his voice perfectly calm. Protect and advance. Shadow Protocol. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies for the next 50 years. Apex moved like violence given form. He weaved through incoming fire with impossible grace, his enhanced reflexes making every shot miss by centimeters. When a holographic enemy rose from cover, Apex was already there, claws raking through the projection with precisely calibrated force. The computer registered a kill. Then another. Then 5 more in rapid succession, but here was the thing that made Vrix'tal's breath catch in his throat. Apex never stopped covering Reeves. Every movement, every attack, every dodge, it all positioned his body between the human and potential threats. The creature was protecting his handler while simultaneously eliminating targets with ruthless efficiency. Forward, left flank, high cover, Reeves called out, and Apex immediately bounded to the indicated position, taking out 3 turrets on the way. They moved through the scenario like they'd been working together for years instead of 2 weeks. Reeves would call out tactical assessments. Apex would execute with perfect precision. When a surprise attack came from behind, Apex was already pivoting to intercept, trusting Reeves to handle the forward threats. 3 minutes into a scenario that was supposed to be impossible, they reached the extraction point, clean sweep. 0 hits registered. Perfect score. The observation gallery was dead silent. Then the door opened, and Admiral Zoeth walked in with a dozen Galactic Council representatives. Apologies for the delay, Commander. I hope we haven't missed too much of the... He trailed off, staring at the display screens, showing Apex's performance metrics. Is this live data? One of the council members asked, her voice faint. Yes, Counselor, Vrix'tal said, and he couldn't keep the smile off his face. That's our Apex Predator program. Would you like to see another demonstration? Down in the arena, Reeves was giving Apex what the human called victory pets, and the creature was wagging his tail hard enough to dent the wall. That thing, Admiral Zoeth said slowly, just achieved a perfect score on a scenario we designed to be unbeatable. Yes, sir. And is it playing? Positive reinforcement, Admiral. The human handler has implemented some unconventional training methods. One of the journalists pushed forward. Commander, could we get a statement? What we just witnessed appears to contradict every existing theory about aggressive bioweapons. Vrix'tal looked down at the arena, where Reeves was throwing the toy and Apex was fetching it with the same explosive speed he'd used to clear the combat scenario. The same creature. 2 completely different modes. Perfect control. I think, Vrix'tal said carefully, that we're going to need to revise our theories. Admiral Zoeth was already on his communicator. Get me the War Council. All of them. I don't care what they are doing. This changes everything. Over the next hour, as more demonstrations were run and more impossible scores were posted, as the Galactic Council representatives started talking about orders and the journalists sent their stories across the galaxy, Reeves finally emerged from the arena. Vrix'tal met him at the door. Human, he said formally. I believe I owe you an apology. Call me Reeves, Commander. An apology accepted. The human grinned. Though I wouldn't mind seeing it in writing. You know, for my personnel file. You might need more than one file, Vrix'tal said. The Admiral wants you to train an entire division of handlers. The Council wants to tour your facilities. And apparently 6 different systems are trying to outbid each other for the first production units. Production units. Reeves frowned. Commander, these aren't units. They are living beings. Each one needs individual training, individual bonding, individual care. I understand. Which is why you're going to be very busy. Vrix'tal's mandibles curved in what humans would recognize as a smile. Congratulations, Reeves. You just revolutionized warfare by teaching the galaxy's deadliest weapon to play fetch. Behind them, Apex barked, the sound echoing through the station like thunder. Yeah, Reeves said, watching his partner with unmistakable affection. But he's a very good boy. And somehow, impossibly, Vrix'tal found he couldn't disagree.